Hello, my name's Vicki Wusche, and this is A Wealthy Life. And what I'm looking to do at the moment over these last two and this particular podcast is put a little bit more whoosh into your planning for 2024 without actually specifically saying goal setting to you. I want to just stir up your thoughts. And I'm doing this on the back of the podcasts that I held with Dr. Julia Ambler in South Africa, so that we can come from a place of gratitude, of recognition, of privilege, of knowledge, and build on that and move forward. And I spoke last week about the importance of language. If you don't have the language, how can you ask better questions? And I think the next step on from that is, once you start thinking about last year and what you want for next year, and you can do it between last week and this week. You could do it between yesterday and today if you want. You don't have to wait for a whole year to do it. Once you have the language to start to articulate what you want, and therefore you're asking better questions, the next question that comes on the top of it is not just, so how was last year? Did you feel energized? Do you feel happy? What do you want more of? What do you want less of? But did it meet your expectation? And I think what we could then ask the question is, more broadly, is life meeting your expectation, or is it letting you down? And then stop ourselves, because life's not the one letting you down. Your interaction with life is subpar and you feel let down. But actually, if you haven't told life what you want, if you haven't set your expectations, is it that life doesn't know and therefore it can't deliver? Back to, if you like, that idea of language again. Is it that you don't know what you want, but you're disappointed because you haven't actually articulated what you want? You haven't got what you want, but you're left with a feeling of disappointed. And I suppose that will very much link back into last week's conversation. Let's think of it for a moment as customer service. Life is there and you're the customer, and it's about, how is life exceeding your expectations? And just to use another metaphor, last one from South Africa, I promise, maybe we'll see, is when we went away on holiday. So the very first day, the very first set of hotels that we moved into, they made us feel very welcome. And the very first morning that we arrived, as you can imagine, you've arrived the day before, you've done your unpacking, you've managed to scrape yourself out the hotel to go and get something to eat after such a long flight. And then we've gone to bed and we have completely overslept and totally missed breakfast. And we rush, and it's like, oh my goodness, it's 9:30. Breakfast finishes in a minute. And we throw on some clothes and we rush downstairs, and they were incredible. They just didn't even matter that we were late. They just treated us as if we'd arrived at 8:00 in the middle of service. They asked us what we wanted and they brought it all to us. And that was lovely. We fully expected when we got downstairs that they were going to say, sorry, you're too late. The kitchen's closed. The cook's gone home, anything like that. But they just stepped it up and they said it was absolutely fine. When we were away on the game drive, we fed back at one of the conversations that we felt that our driver had driven way too fast and wasn't listening to what the customers in the drive in the vehicle were saying. And they absolutely stepped up and fed back to us and changed the situation for the next day that we went out on a drive. But then there was another accommodation that we went to off when we were in the caves, which is where the story from the orange flower last week came, where we knew we were going off grid. We knew that we weren't going to have Wi-Fi. We knew that we weren't going to have phone reception. Everything was going to be fine. That's what we wanted. We wanted to be out in the middle of nowhere and just have this off-grid time. The accommodation, or the venue, if you like, would have had knowledge of their circumstances. They would know what their place is like. They live there all the time. And what they didn't do is anticipate in any way or communicate with us in any way what we could expect. And this takes us back to the idea of language. We didn't know to ask the question, would it be cold? We didn't know to ask the question, would the electricity be on? We didn't even know to ask the question, will we need heating, or how will we heat the place? Ignorance, you could say, lack of language. It's the same thing, isn't it, really? Just ignorance is a bit more blamey. Not having the language to ask the questions is a softer way of saying the same problem. And we arrived at this property, absolutely great, signed us in, nothing was a problem, told us where the keys were, sent us down to our accommodation. Off we went, got there, beautiful setting, these little cabins down by the river in the middle of nowhere, very rustic, beautiful fireplace and everything else. Not that we had any wood for it. And all of a sudden we get in and we know that we've got 30 minutes till load shedding. So the first thing we do, because it feels quite cold, is start to look at how we can heat the property very quickly for half an hour, because obviously all the power is going to go off. And when I say obviously, this is something that happens in South Africa. They just switch all the electricity off. It doesn't matter whether it's day or night. If the demand on the grid is too high, they plan it and then they just shut the power off. And that could be between 4 and 6. It could be between 6 and 8. It could be from 10 o'clock to midnight. And of course, between 6 and 8, it's getting dark and you're supposed to be able to prepare your food, and then all the power goes off. We search this house. We find the panel that would control the heating. We recognize that it's underfloor heating. We set the heating, nothing changes. We set the heating, nothing changes. We then realize that whatever it is, we can't make this heating work. We're running out of time. It's getting darker and the lights are about to go out and we need help. So we get back in the car, we drive straight back to reception, only to find that it's closed. They've gone home. Lucky for us, where they park the car is round the back of reception. And just at that precise moment, they drove round the corner on their way home. We flagged down their car, asked them for help, and easy problem to be solved. We didn't have the language to ask the question before, but then because of our experience, we had the language to ask the question. And we asked them, how do we heat the place? They explained that the heating didn't work. Okay, we could have a little side conversation here, which is, if you knew the heating didn't work and you knew I was going to a house where the heating didn't work, why didn't you say that to me before I left reception in the first place? We'll skirt over that for the minute. So they very kindly said, right, some wood. We went, thank you. They said, oh, just come back and pay us tomorrow because we've closed the office. Marvelous. And then we went, oh, how are we going to light the wood? And they went, oh, you're going to need matches. We don't have any matches. We don't smoke. We don't have any matches. Why would we have matches? What about firelighters? Well, no, it's not the. If we don't carry wood with us and we don't carry matches with us, why would we carry firelighters with us? So they're very kindly, they opened up, they got us matches and firelighters. Off we went, and we managed to eventually find where the hidden fireplace was in the house, set the fire, warmed the place up, and we didn't freeze to death in the night. The point here is, some places exceeded our expectation, either right at the minute, they just did it in the moment, or they responded to something we said. Other properties we stayed at failed to meet our expectations, and not because we had really high, we weren't looking at, oh, 5-star, accommodation, this is what we're looking for, and we only got 3-star service. It's not that sort of an expectation, but if you like, almost common sense style anticipation of a customer's need. These things about life where you live, and that I am new to the place where you live. Why don't you express that to me? And it's that language thing again, that we didn't know what we didn't know. So if I take this back to life, sometimes life is going to open up the kitchen again for you, even though you've overslept. And it will be all so easy, you almost won't even need to ask. You were late, but none of it matters. It's all going to be fixed. Sometimes in life, you're going to have to say, no, hold on. I'd like to say, I don't like that. You're driving too fast. I'd very much like you to slow down. And life will go, yeah, okay, I hear you. I'll change the way I drive and it'll all be fine. But there are going to be times when life doesn't give you what you expect. You didn't need to know to even ask for what you wanted. And then you're left feeling disappointed. And so what happened on that specific part of the holiday is we bumped into some other people and we could hear them complaining about the same property. And we said, oh, are you staying at this place? And they said that they were. And we both shared experiences that were very similar. That here we were in a place that was cold, that the power was off, and that nobody said anything. And they were in the same situation as us, not being able to warm themselves, having to sit in the dark and having to wait for hours. And then even when the power came back on, they still couldn't get the heating to work. So just having to go to bed until the next morning. They didn't have the language to ask. We didn't have the language to ask. And life, or this particular venue, didn't deliver, didn't meet our expectations. Is it fair? I suppose in a customer service sense of way, it is fair to say this venue failed. But is it fair to say that life has failed when life doesn't give you what you want, if you don't ask for what you want? Is it down to life to work out what you need? Now, if you're running, whether it's an Airbnb or a booking.com or holiday lets of any form, whether it's some form of, staying on a vineyard or staying in a hotel or anything like that, yes, it is your job to anticipate what your client's needs. It's part of customer service and you should deliver. But if we're using that as a metaphor for life, is life supposed to make your life easy? Is life supposed to make your life happy? Is life supposed to energize you? I think we'd like to say, yes, life should energize you, but it's not life's responsibility. It's our interaction with life. If we say what we want, maybe not everybody wants to feel energized. Maybe some people want to feel relaxed, which would be the opposite of energized. Maybe some people would use the word healthy. I want to feel healthy. Nothing to do with whether I'm relaxed or energized. I want to feel healthy. And so we'll all have almost, if you like, different demands of life. But it's not life's responsibility to fulfill. I think sometimes we, particularly in the West, we live in a society where we expect things to come to us. We expect to get a job. We expect to be treated in a certain way. We expect the NHS to work. We expect the government to do things. We demand these things. We want to be rich. We want to be, I don't know, have stuff. We want a nice car. But what are you doing to contribute to the process of getting what you want out of life? And if you don't, number one, think about what it is that you want. Number two, check that you've got the language to actually describe it in a way that you want it. And if you don't, work on it, ask better questions, describe what you want, which is really articulating your goals. If you don't do that side of it, if you're not keeping up your side of the bargain, then how is it possible that when you go into the world, that the world can say, well, look, here are all the opportunities. And because you have the right language, you can go, oh, yes, I'll have number 1, number 6, and number 9, please. Because you know what it is that you want. It's all there, but it's not life's responsibility to give it to you. It's your responsibility to articulate what you want and find it, and then identify that as the right opportunity for you, and then go ahead and have it. So it's like customer service, except it is not the responsibility of life, whereas it is the responsibility of the hotel or the Airbnb. It's that relationship that you have with anything in your life. You could even describe this as being with your children. Your job as a parent is to guide them. Their job as a child, I nearly said, is to be annoying, but it's not. They're not annoying. They're just is to push the boundaries. Let's say it that way round. So they are a bit like you in life. If they don't say what they want, if they don't articulate their needs, you're plowing on as a parent, doing the best you can, just motorwaying down that road, you know, heading down that road, doing all the best things. But actually what your child is saying to you is, you know what, I'm not really enjoying life at school the way it is. I really feel creative and school's not helping me. And if you go back and you listen to the podcast that I did with Jason Greystone, which is 86, something like that, about this time last month, so about 3 or 4 weeks ago, maybe, I'm not sure. Go back and check out the last podcast I did with Jason Greystone. I'll stick the links in the podcast afterwards. I think it's number 86. It's about Jason's asking the question, what are you teaching your kids? You know, he took his son out of school because he had that as a conversation, because he facilitated, maybe because he noticed that his son needed help with the language to ask for what he wanted, and they could have that as a conversation. And life can do that for you. Life is like that benevolent parent. It will have that conversation with you and help you achieve what you want. But it's got a lot of children. It can't just ask you and forget everybody else. So you have to ask for what you want. And that's what these 3 podcasts have been about. What are you happy with in 2023? What would you like more of? What would you like less of? And if you're struggling with those words, I suggested that there was a writing exercise that you could do to start to articulate the language in last week's episode. So where you're missing the language to describe what it is, do the writing exercise. And now maybe take on this metaphor of customer service. Is life exceeding your expectations, or, excuse the phrasing of this, failing to deliver? But actually it's not that life is failing to deliver, it's that you're not clear in what it is that you want. It's probably been a bit more of one of those whirly podcasts, this one that maybe has left you confused, but in that confusion, trust and know that your unconscious will have received this message. Trust and know that you will have understood this at some deeper level. And if you do the work, if you do the reflection, if you do the writing, if you articulate what you want, I truly believe that the universe will provide for you. I was speaking to a mentee earlier today, and we were having a conversation, and she said that she wouldn't be where she is now, nearly 11 years after we spoke, if it wasn't for having met me way back in 2012. And she said, the only thing is that I don't feel successful. And I felt like I needed to stop her there, because she is successful. She's successful as a parent. She's done an amazing job raising her children in all the different circumstances that she's had. And she wanted to invest in property, and she hasn't invested in property in the way that she thought. And when I gave it back to her and showed her what she had achieved, it was almost as if she manifested investing in property, but she hadn't had the language to be very clear about what it was that she wanted. Right, I want 2 buy-to-lets, an HMO, and then I want to do a development. She hadn't specified it. She just said that I want to have wealth through property, and she has achieved that. And there was this moment where she sat in the car with me and she went, yeah, I see. She didn't say to life what she wanted, but she was lucky life has provided for her. It's just come in a roundabout way, not the way that she had planned. But if you are clear with life, if you say to life what you want, and as I said to the women, when was this, a couple of weeks ago, when I was speaking in Croydon, and again on some of the podcasts that I've been doing, or the webinars that I've been doing as part of Female Invest, talking to people about, if you don't engage in shaping the life that you want, understanding how much money you need, understanding how you want to spend your time, and looking at, okay, can I live the life I want, and living that life then generate the income that I need in the time that is left? And if the answer is yes, great, that's your business plan. And if not, how can you move the balance slightly? How can you decide that you want to spend less time or that you need less money? And so you make the equation work and you create that plan. When you create that plan, I truly passionately believe that everything will conspire to help you. And if we want to do it from a scientific perspective, it's because by making it clear in your head, you've implanted it into your subconscious. Your subconscious is filtering information at a phenomenal speed all day long. And when it filters through, if it's got the certain size holes of the things that you want, the information drops through the hole and it comes into your conscious and you go, oh yes, there's the opportunity that will work for me. If you don't do that, then you're filtering all of this information and your unconscious doesn't know what's relevant and what's not relevant. And it could be bringing up things for you that serve no purpose now with the goals or the vision that you have for your life. If you want to do the woo-woo end of things, then it's about thinking about The Secret, that book by, it's escaped me. We'll put it in the notes for you. But The Secret is a very famous book in the personal development, self-development world. And it always felt to me like The Secret was saying, if you just sit cross-legged on the floor and you meditate on what it is that you want, I want a bag of gold, and the bag of gold will fall in your lap. And I don't believe that that's quite what was meant by it. But that idea of manifesting, that's the woo-woo version for goal setting. And by manifesting, the universe provides is the woo-woo version of your unconscious filters the information and identifies the perfect opportunities for you. If you don't decide what you want, you may fall foul of life, inverted commas, failing to meet your expectations. If you ask for what you want, we went down to breakfast, we asked for breakfast because we'd overslept, and they went, yes, of course, it's no problem. I'd like to invest in property, universe. Yes, of course. Here are some opportunities for you. I'd like to set up a successful business. Yes, of course. Here are some opportunities for you. But if you don't ask, you won't get. You can't ask if you don't have the language. You won't get the language unless you work it out what it is that you want the language about. So it becomes this circle. And that's what these 3 podcasts have been about. What is it that you want? How can you articulate that in a way that makes sense? How can you ask better questions? And having asked better questions, how can you increase your knowledge and your understanding? And then how can you put that together in a way that you write your customer service, not demands, requests, and then they can be delivered. And then life will meet your expectations because you turned around to life and said, this is what I want to expect. This is what I expect from you. This is our service agreement. I want this. Please, thank you. And the universe has gone, yes, okay. Let's see how I can work that out for you. So I hope that I've twiddled with some of your brain cells, that maybe I've muddled a few of them up, but at the end of this, your unconscious will have gained the understanding that it needs to now work out what it is that you want. And I hope that your conscious has understood that you are the one that can start to shape and inform 2024 for yourself. 2025, if you like, 2026. Don't limit yourselves. How do you want your life to be? What would a wealthy life look like to you? And from this position of privilege, gratitude, opportunity, how can you seize this and make this all that you want it to be? Thank you very much for listening. My name is Vicki Wusche. I have hoped that I have riled things up, agitated things, so that you are in a position where you can think about life more differently. You could think about goals more differently. And then if you want to, sit down over the next few weeks, over the Christmas period, and actually write goals, if that's what you want to do, or write a mission statement, if that's what you want to do, or write your service level agreement with life. I'll do this for you, life, but in return, I want this back. Not as a bargain, but as an agreement between you. I'm going to leave you for the last time with Julia, and would ask, if you haven't had that opportunity to click on the link, that you please do go over, and whether you just send her £10, or whether you even set up a payment plan so that you send her £10 every month, the difference that money would make, not just because of the exchange rates between the pound and the rand, but the difference the money will make, because for us, we have so much more than some others in other countries. That money can literally save lives, and where it can't save lives, it can improve the quality of lives of those children and those families that need it the most. Thank you very much for listening, and I will speak to you next week.
I am Dr. Julia Ambler, co-founder of Umduduzi Hospice Care for Children, and I'm here today to ask you for help. Our job is incredibly important. We have a very small team of dedicated professionals providing another layer of support to children that have got serious illness and to their families and siblings. Palliative care for children is a very poorly understood field. A lot of people think it's only about death and dying. They don't realize how stressful an illness is for a family and a child that are experiencing it. So at Umduduzi, we receive referrals from the whole province of KZN. We see children from 0 to 18 with conditions such as cancer, liver problems, kidney failure, heart problems. These families are diagnosed, are given very serious diagnosis. They've got to cope with that emotionally. They've got to process it. They've got to understand the treatments, the implications of those treatments, the prognosis. There's also much time that a child spends away from school, spends away from home, being admitted into a strange and unfamiliar place. And then, of course, there's the spiritual side of illness. Very few of us can separate our mind, body, and spirit when it comes to something as serious as sickness, such as cancer. So our role at Umduduzi is to really focus on that, find out what are the issues that this particular family and child are facing, over and above the simple diagnosis that they have received. How do we provide that extra support that they need? It may be as simple as providing them a pram, an umbrella stroller. Perhaps the child has got a neurological disability and transporting the child is so very, very difficult. That pram costs R1,000 and is completely out of reach for them. But maybe we can relieve some of their suffering by providing them with this mode of transport that can easily be put into the taxi as they make their way to hospital for their numerous appointments. That help that we might give might be more about pain management. Very few doctors focus on what a child is experiencing. They manage the disease, they treat the pneumonia, they treat the cancer, but have they asked about what the pain is, where is the pain, and how can we alleviate that pain physically, emotionally, and spiritually? So palliative care is really essential in any kind of healthcare setting. Unfortunately, in South Africa, it is purely in the NGO sector. There are very few people that are paid to do palliative care. And at the moment in South Africa, I am the only doctor receiving any funding from the Department of Health for palliative care. And I receive 10 hours a week to provide these services to the children of KZN. So we're in a difficult situation. We've got a nurse, 4 part-time nurses, a social worker, another very, very part-time doctor, a translator, and now recently we've employed a manager to help us with some of the fundraising because it is just such an arduous task. So despite being a small team, all of these people are professional and need to be paid. And the families that we support really do need that extra layer of support that we are offering. So I'm asking you today, it doesn't matter how little or how much, if you've got something to be able to give, whether it is in the form of a donation, such as a pram, or giving of your hard-earned money to pay for an hour of a nurse's time, we need you. And we really would be very grateful if you would consider following us on our social media pages, joining up to, we've got a 100 Club where if everyone just gave 100 Rand a month, we would be able to cover all our costs quite simply. So please think about supporting us as we support the children with serious illness based in KZN.